Captain Vex 9 gripped his observation pad so tightly that his 3 fingers left permanent dents in the metal. 47 species had attempted the Grimwald jungle survival test. 47 species had failed spectacularly. The Korthans lasted 6 hours before their exoskeletons cracked from humidity. The mighty Zelonian warriors? 4 hours flat, screaming about impossible atmospheric conditions. Even the supposedly indestructible Titanoids gave up after their leader got tangled in a vine for 3 consecutive hours. "Another failure, sir," Lieutenant Quinn reported, not bothering to hide the amusement in her voice. "The Bracken delegation is requesting immediate evacuation. Something about, and I quote, sentient mosquitoes plotting their demise." Vex 9's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his kind. Sentient mosquitoes. Right. Add them to the list of species who clearly aren't ready for advanced galactic citizenship. The Grimwald jungle wasn't just any testing ground. Oh no. This particular green nightmare had been specifically designed by the Galactic Council's most sadistic minds to weed out species unworthy of joining their ranks. 96% humidity? Check. Carnivorous plants that moved faster than most speeders? Double check. Weather patterns that changed every 37 minutes without warning? Triple check with a side of, good luck surviving that. "Sir, we have another applicant," Quinn announced, her voice carrying that special tone reserved for paperwork she didn't want to deal with. "Who is it this time? The Fluffy Tails from Sector 7? Please tell me it's not the Fluffy Tails. Worse, sir. It's humans." The observation deck fell silent. Even the automated systems seemed to pause their humming. Vex 9 slowly turned his bulbous head toward his lieutenant. "Humans? Those bipedal mammals from the third rock orbiting that yellow dwarf? The ones who haven't even figured out faster than light travel yet? The very same, sir. The species that still uses projectile weapons and burns fossil fuels? Affirmative. The ones whose idea of conflict resolution is hitting each other with sticks? Well, they've upgraded to hitting each other with metal sticks now, sir." Vex 9's laugh came out as a series of rapid clicks that sounded like a broken communication device. "This should be entertaining. How many are they sending?" "Just one, sir." The captain's amusement died instantly. "One? One human? Against the Grimwald jungle?" He activated the main viewing screen, and there she was. A single human female, maybe 5.5 feet tall, with brown hair tied back in what humans called a ponytail. She wore simple brown pants, a green jacket, and boots that looked like they'd seen better decades. "What's her name?" "Maya Thompson, sir. Age 28. Occupation listed as survival instructor." Survival instructor. Vex 9 repeated the words like they tasted funny. "Let me get this straight. They sent one tiny human female whose job is teaching other humans how to not die, and they expect her to succeed where entire military units from advanced civilizations have failed? Apparently so, sir. This is either the most arrogant thing I've ever witnessed, or—" Vex 9 paused, studying the human more carefully. She stood at the jungle's edge, casually adjusting her backpack straps while examining the canopy above. No trembling, no obvious fear responses, just calm assessment. Or they know something we don't. Maya Thompson stepped into the jungle at exactly 0800 hours Galactic Standard Time. The moment her boot touched the moss-covered ground, every sensor in the observation station lit up like a celebration display. "Temperature spike detected, sir. Humidity increasing. The jungle's responding to her presence." "Of course it is. That's what it does." Vex 9 settled into his observation chair, preparing for what would likely be the shortest test run in galactic history. "Start the timer. I give her 20 minutes before she's crying for extraction." Maya's first encounter came within 5 minutes. A Grimwald strangler vine, thick as a small tree trunk, dropped from the canopy with the speed of a striking serpent. These vines had crushed the bones of titanoids. They'd squeezed the life out of creatures 3 times Maya's size. The vine wrapped around her torso. "And there we go," Vex 9 muttered. 20 minutes was optimistic. I should have said 5. Maya looked down at the vine circling her body. Then she did something that made every alien in the observation deck question their understanding of basic survival instincts. She smiled. "Oh, you want to play, huh?" Maya's voice came through crystal clear on the audio feed. "I've dealt with pythons bigger than you, buddy." The vine began to constrict. Maya didn't panic. Instead, she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out what appeared to be a small folding knife. "Sir, should we prepare the extraction team?" Quinn asked, her voice unusually quiet. "Wait." Vex 9 held up a hand. "Just wait." Maya didn't try to cut the vine. That would have been the logical approach, the one that had failed every other species. The Grimwald strangler vines had skin tougher than military-grade armor plating. Instead, Maya did something completely different. She tickled it. Actually tickled it. With the flat side of her knife blade, she gently scraped along a section of the vine that other species wouldn't have even noticed. The vine's grip loosened immediately. "What in the name of the cosmic void?" Vex 9 leaned forward, his compound eyes focusing on the scene. "Sensitive spot," Maya said cheerfully to no one in particular. "Every constrictor has them. You just have to know where to look." The vine unwrapped itself entirely and retreated back into the canopy. Maya waved at it. "Thanks for the hug." The observation deck erupted in confused chatter. Lieutenant Quinn was frantically checking her instruments. "Sir, the vine's biosignatures show." "Confusion? How does a plant show confusion?" "I don't know," Vex 9 admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I genuinely don't know." Maya continued deeper into the jungle, and the challenges escalated. The acid spitters emerged next, carnivorous plants that could dissolve steel with their digestive enzymes. They'd reduced the bracken delegation to puddles of goo within minutes. Maya walked right up to the largest one. "Hey there, beautiful," she said, examining its purple and green coloration. "You're just hungry, aren't you?" The plant opened its maw, revealing rows of thorn-like teeth dripping with acid. Maya calmly reached into her backpack and pulled out what looked like a simple sandwich. "I bet you've never had peanut butter and jelly before." She tossed the sandwich directly into the plant's mouth. The acid spitter caught it, paused, and then made a sound that could only be described as contentment. "Sir," Quinn's voice cracked slightly. "The plant's vital signs indicate pleasure? It's producing endorphin-equivalent compounds." Maya patted the plant's stem like it was a friendly dog. The acid spitter leaned into her touch. Within minutes, every acid spitter in the clearing was surrounding her, their maws open expectantly. "Sorry, guys, that's all the sandwiches I've got for now," Maya said, scratching one under what might have been its chin. "But I'll make more later, okay?" The plants practically purred. "This is impossible." Vex 9 stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Those plants have consumed entire military squadrons. They don't have friendly interactions with anything." "Maybe," Quinn suggested quietly. "Nobody ever tried giving them sandwiches?" Maya was 3 hours into the test when she encountered the thermite wasps. These weren't your garden-variety stinging insects. Each wasp was the size of a small bird, with a stinger that injected venom hot enough to melt through titanium. They'd forced the evacuation of the last 6 species within minutes of contact. The swarm descended on Maya like a living storm cloud. She didn't run. She didn't swat at them. Instead, she stood perfectly still and started humming. "What is she doing?" Vex 9 demanded. The humming wasn't random. It was a melody, simple but rhythmic. The wasp's aggressive buzzing began to synchronize with Maya's tune. Within minutes, they were hovering around her in formation, their flight patterns matching the rhythm of her song. "The frequency," Quinn breathed, staring at her readings. "She's matching their communication frequency. She's She's talking to them. Through humming? Through humming, sir. Maya continued her melody for several more minutes, then gradually shifted to a lower pitch. The wasps responded by dispersing peacefully back into the jungle. As the last one disappeared, Maya called out, "Thanks for the escort, guys. You've got great rhythm." By hour 6, the observation deck had gone completely silent. Maya had successfully navigated the poison dart meadows by recognizing which berries the local wildlife avoided. She'd crossed the quicksand flats by following the root patterns of stabilizing trees. She'd even befriended a family of grim-walled bears, creatures that had mauled the Zolonian champions by sharing her trail mix and helping their cubs down from a tree. "Sir," Quinn's voice was barely audible, "she's not just surviving, she's thriving." Vex 9 nodded slowly, his worldview cracking like ice under pressure. "Get me the historical records, all of them. I want to know everything about human survival adaptations." "Right away, sir." As the sun began to set, Maya reached the deepest part of the jungle, where the real test began. This was the section that had claimed every other species within hours. The trees here were massive, their trunks wide enough to house small cities. The canopy was so thick that daylight never reached the ground. It was in this primordial darkness that the jungle's true guardians lived. Maya activated a small flashlight and examined her surroundings. She was standing in a clearing dominated by a single, massive tree, its trunk disappearing into the darkness above. "Home sweet home," she said, setting down her backpack. "Home?" Vex 9 leaned forward. "What does she mean, home?" Maya began unpacking her bag with the efficient movements of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. Rope, tools, what appeared to be construction materials, and then items that made no sense in a survival context. A small solar panel, a water purification tablet, a collapsible rain collector. She's not just planning to survive, Quinn realized. She's planning to build something. Build what? Their question was answered over the next 4 hours. Working by the light of her small flashlight and occasional lightning flashes, Maya began constructing something in the tree above. The sounds of her work echoed through the jungle, hammering, sawing, the occasional cheerful whistle. "Status report," Vex 9 demanded. "Sir, she's building a treehouse. A complete, multi-level treehouse, with running water, solar power, and what appears to be a weapons storage system." "A weapons storage system?" "Sharpened sticks, sir. Lots of them." By midnight, Maya had completed her construction project. She'd built a 3-level treehouse, complete with a sleeping platform, a food storage area, and a workshop. She'd installed her rain collector system, connected her solar panel, and created a pulley system for raising and lowering supplies. And she'd done it all while humming the same tune she'd used with the wasps. "Final systems check," Maya announced to herself, testing the rope ladder. "Structural integrity? Good. Water collection? Operational. Emergency escape routes? Ready." She paused and looked directly at one of the hidden observation cameras. "Oh, and accommodations for unexpected guests." Vex 9 nearly fell out of his chair. "She knows we're watching." "How could she know?" Quinn asked. "Because, Lieutenant, we just learned something very important about humans. They're not just survivors." Vex 9 studied the image of Maya settling into her treehouse, looking completely at ease in the most dangerous environment known to the galactic community. They're adapters. And apparently, they're better at it than anyone realized. As Maya's first night in the Grimwald jungle began, she did something that no other test subject had ever done. She looked comfortable. Genuinely, completely comfortable. The jungle settled around her treehouse, like an old friend accepting a new neighbor. The sounds of the night continued their ancient rhythm, but somehow they seemed less threatening, more welcoming. In her treehouse, Maya pulled out a small notebook and began writing by the light of her solar-powered lamp. Day 1. Grimwald Jungle Survival Test. Her voice came through clearly on the audio feed. Weather, humid but manageable. Local wildlife, surprisingly social once you learn their languages. Accommodation, rustic but functional. She paused, tapping her pen against her lips. Note to self, bring more peanut butter next time. The acid spitters really loved the sandwiches. Vex 9 stared at the screen, his understanding of the universe shifting like tectonic plates. In less than 16 hours, this single human had not only survived challenges that had defeated entire alien civilizations, she'd made friends with the local ecosystem and built permanent housing. "Sir," Quinn's voice was hushed with something approaching awe. "What do we do now?" The captain was quiet for a long moment, watching Maya organize her supplies with the casual efficiency of someone setting up for an extended stay. "We keep watching, Lieutenant, because I have a feeling that tomorrow is going to be even more interesting." In her treehouse, Maya finished her log entry and prepared for sleep. Outside, the jungle continued its nightly symphony. But for the first time since the testing ground had been established, the sounds seemed almost peaceful. The first day of testing was over. Maya Thompson had not just survived, she'd made the Grimwald jungle her temporary home, and somehow, Vex 9 suspected, this was just the beginning. Dawn broke over the Grimwald jungle with sounds that Captain Vex 9 had never heard before. Instead of the usual territorial roars and warning calls that had greeted every previous test subject, the jungle was singing. "Lieutenant, please tell me our audio equipment isn't malfunctioning." Vex 9 rubbed his compound eyes with his upper appendages. "All systems functioning normally, sir," Quinn replied, her voice carrying the same bewilderment that had infected the entire observation crew. "The jungle appears to be producing harmonic frequencies consistent with music." Maya emerged from her treehouse at precisely 0630 hours, stretching and yawning like she'd spent the night at a luxury resort instead of in the galaxy's most lethal testing ground. She began her morning routine by checking her rain collection system, which had gathered enough water overnight to supply a small army. "Good morning, everyone," Maya called out to the jungle at large. "Hope you all slept well." The response was immediate. Birds began chirping in organized patterns. The wind through the leaves took on rhythmic qualities. Even the usual morning fog seemed to swirl in deliberate, welcoming spirals. "Sir," Quinn's voice cracked, "she's conducting them. She's actually conducting the jungle like an orchestra." Maya began descending her rope ladder, but instead of the careful, fear-driven movements that had characterized every other test subject, she moved with the confidence of someone visiting old friends, which, Vex 9 was beginning to realize, might actually be accurate. "Day 2 objectives," Maya announced to herself, pulling out her notebook. "Expand social network. Improve local infrastructure. Investigate the northern quadrant's mineral composition." She paused, tapping her pen thoughtfully. "Oh, and figure out why everyone thinks this place is dangerous." 3 Grimwald bears approached her clearing. These weren't the same family from yesterday. These were adults, massive creatures with claws that could slice through starship hull plating. Their approach had been detected by the monitoring systems as a code-red threat level. Maya looked up from her notes and smiled. "Oh, hello. You must be from the Northern District. I'm Maya. I met your cousins yesterday." The lead bear, a massive male with scars across his snout, stopped 10 feet away and made a sound that registered on the threat assessment system as an imminent attack growl. Maya tilted her head, listening carefully. Then she made a similar sound back. The bear's posture changed instantly. His aggressive stance relaxed into what could only be described as surprise. "Oh, you're asking about territory boundaries?" Maya nodded understandingly. "That's very reasonable. I'm just staying temporarily in the big tree over there. Is that okay with your patrol route?" The bear made another sound, softer this time. "Absolutely. I'll stay out of the salmon spawning grounds. Wouldn't want to interfere with breakfast." Maya reached into her pack and pulled out what appeared to be a handful of nuts. Trade offering? These are from my home planet. Completely organic. 20 minutes later, Vex 9 watched in stunned silence as Maya walked through the jungle, accompanied by a full escort of Grimwald bears, all of them sharing nuts and apparently engaged in casual conversation. Status report, Vex 9 demanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. Sir, she's established diplomatic relations with the apex predator species, Quinn reported mechanically. They appear to have assigned her a security detail. A security detail? Yes, sir? The bears are clearing obstacles from her path and providing advanced scouting for potential hazards. Maya's exploration of the northern quadrant revealed something that made the observation team's confusion reach new heights. She wasn't just surviving the jungle's challenges anymore, she was improving them. At the poisonous spring, a water source that had killed 3 different species through toxic exposure, Maya didn't avoid the danger. She fixed it. Using materials she'd apparently gathered during her morning walk, Maya constructed a simple filtration system using sand, charcoal, and what looked like pieces of her own clothing. She tested the filtered water using strips of paper from her notebook that changed color based on chemical composition. Safe to drink, she announced, filling her water bottle. Much better now. This spring was probably just backed up with organic debris. She looked directly at another hidden camera. You know, a little maintenance goes a long way. The filtered spring immediately became a gathering point for local wildlife. Animals that had avoided the area for generations began arriving in small groups, cautiously testing the now clean water. Sir, Quinn whispered, she's terraforming. A human is terraforming the Grimwald jungle. Maya's next stop was the infamous thorn maze, a section of the jungle where carnivorous thorns grew in patterns so dense and aggressive that they'd trapped and consumed entire military units. The thorns moved with predatory intelligence, closing off escape routes and herding victims toward digestive pods. Maya walked to the edge of the maze and sat down cross-legged. Okay, guys, let's talk about this, she said to the thorns. I can see you're stressed. Probably haven't had proper pruning in decades. That's got to hurt. The thorns writhed toward her, their movement patterns indicating preparation for feeding. Maya didn't move. I know, you're hungry. But look at yourselves. You're all overgrown, tangled up, competing for sunlight. No wonder you're cranky. Maya reached into her pack and pulled out what appeared to be gardening shears. How about we try a little landscaping? What followed was the most surreal gardening session in Galactic history. Maya began carefully trimming the thorn bushes, talking to them constantly. She explained which cuts would improve their growth patterns, which sections were blocking sunlight for their neighbors, and how proper spacing would actually increase their feeding efficiency. The thorns didn't attack her. Instead, they began moving to accommodate her suggestions, repositioning themselves according to her guidance. There we go, Maya said, stepping back to admire her work 2 hours later. Now you've got proper growth channels, better sunlight distribution, and clear hunting lanes. Plus, travelers can actually navigate through here safely, which means more potential food sources in the long run. The thorn maze had become the thorn garden, organized, efficient, and somehow beautiful. This is impossible, Vex 9 muttered, watching Maya wave goodbye to a thorn bush that was practically glowing with health. Plant behavior doesn't work like this. Predatory species don't just cooperate. Sir, Quinn said quietly, maybe they do. Maybe nobody ever tried asking them nicely. Maya's transformation of the jungle accelerated throughout the day. She taught the acid spitters how to process different types of nutrients more efficiently, turning them from desperate predators into selective feeders. She showed the thermite wasps how their natural flight patterns could be optimized for better territory coverage. She even helped a family of strangler vines relocate to an area with better structural support. By afternoon, Maya had established what could only be described as a consultation business. Various jungle creatures were actually forming lines to speak with her. Current status, Lieutenant? Sir, she's holding office hours. The local ecosystem is seeking management advice. Management advice? Yes, sir. She's optimizing their hunting patterns, resolving territorial disputes, and providing what appears to be relationship counseling. The relationship counseling session involved two grim-walled bears who had apparently been fighting over fishing rights at a particular stream. Maya sat between them like a referee, listening to each side of the dispute. Okay, so, Bruno, you've been fishing this spot for 3 seasons, and you consider it your territory. That's fair. Maya turned to the other bear. And Marcus, your family has grown, and you need additional fishing grounds to feed everyone. Also completely reasonable. Both bears made sounds that indicated agreement. Here's what I'm thinking. Bruno, what if you kept morning fishing rights, but Marcus's family gets afternoon access? The fish are more active at different times anyway, so you'd both actually catch more. The bears looked at each other, then back at Maya. After a brief exchange of growls, they both made sounds that the translation system interpreted as acceptance. Great. Shake paws on it. Vex 9 watched 2 apex predators shake paws like they were sealing a business deal. I need to lie down, he muttered. Maya's most impressive achievement came in the evening, when she encountered the jungle's ultimate challenge, the reason the Grimwald had never been successfully colonized, the nightmare wasps. These weren't like the thermite wasps. These were creatures of pure malevolence, insects the size of small aircraft with stingers that injected psychoactive venom, designed to drive victims insane with terror before consumption. They had appeared only 3 times in recorded history, and each time had resulted in the complete evacuation of entire sectors. They emerged from their hidden hive as the sun began to set, a black cloud of death that blotted out the sky. Their buzzing was so low frequency that it induced panic responses in most galactic species. Maya looked up at the approaching swarm and did something that would be talked about in xenobiology circles for centuries. She laughed. Oh, you poor things, Maya said, genuine sympathy in her voice. You're not nightmare wasps at all. You're just severely sleep-deprived. The swarm descended toward her, their formation indicating preparation for mass attack. Maya stood her ground and began humming, but this time, her melody was different. Slower, gentler, a lullaby. The effect was immediate. The wasps' aggressive formation began to waver. Their buzzing changed pitch, becoming higher, less threatening. Several of them actually began to drift in lazy circles, instead of maintaining attack patterns. That's right. Maya continued her lullaby. You're all exhausted. When's the last time any of you got proper rest? You've been living on adrenaline and sugar for so long. No wonder you're cranky. The swarm settled on the ground around her, their aggressive postures dissolving into what could only be described as tiredness. Here's what we're going to do, Maya said, reaching into her pack for the last time. She pulled out a small container of honey. Real honey, from Earth bees. Consider it a professional courtesy from one pollinator species to another. She placed the honey in the center of the clearing. The wasps approached cautiously, then began feeding. The change in their behavior was immediate and dramatic. The psychoactive venom sacs that had glowed with malevolent energy began to dim. The wasps' movements became peaceful, almost drowsy. Much better, Maya nodded approvingly. Now, I want you all to get some proper sleep. Tomorrow, we'll work on establishing better feeding schedules and maybe finding you a more suitable nesting site, somewhere with better drainage. One by one, the nightmare wasps found comfortable spots around the clearing and settled down to sleep. Within an hour, the most feared predators in known space were snoring peacefully around Maya's campfire. Final status report of the day, Vex 9 requested, his voice hollow with disbelief. Sir, she's established a functional ecosystem management system. Territorial disputes are down 97%. Predation rates have stabilized at sustainable levels. Local wildlife health indicators are showing unprecedented improvement. Quinn paused, consulting her instruments. Sir, the Grimwald jungle is no longer classifying as a hazardous environment. What? According to all monitoring systems, the jungle now rates as peaceful. Vex 9 stared at the screens, showing Maya preparing for her second night in the treehouse. Around her clearing, dozens of species that had never coexisted peacefully were settling down for the evening like neighbors in a small town. Get me High Command, Vex 9 said finally. We need to report that the test has been concluded. Should I file it as a successful completion, sir? No, Lieutenant. File it as a complete paradigm shift. This human didn't pass our test. She made our test obsolete. Maya's voice drifted through the speakers as she settled into her treehouse for the night. Day 2 complete. Local community relations excellent. Infrastructure improvements ahead of schedule. Personal satisfaction high. She paused, looking out at her peacefully sleeping neighbors. Note to self, bring more honey next time. And maybe some herbal tea. I think the wasps would enjoy chamomile. As the Grimwald jungle settled into what was probably the most peaceful night in its recorded history, Vex 9 faced the reality that everything his species thought they knew about survival, dominance, and civilization was about to change. Because a human had just demonstrated that sometimes the most powerful survival strategy wasn't conquering your environment, it was making friends with it. The test was over. The real education was just beginning.